Within our world are creatures we cannot hope to comprehend. Science refuses to recognize them as fact, but Hollywood sees this as an easy cash grab. Now, join these three men as they venture into these attempts at success. You will witness the good, the bad, and the strange as you are now venturing into Cryptic Collectors.
Welcome all once again to Cryptic Collectors, the only show where we allow anybody of certain lamp addictions into our lives.
The kind that actually tears through our clothes as well as through our skin, as what these movies like to depict the kind of monster that we are looking at today.
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. Do you think maybe that those occurrences happened because they just wanted the wool sweaters that the people were wearing?
I mean, as far as I know, Point Pleasant should
the only
just
ones that had like thick
supply.
sweaters wasn't the other was only one movie. The other one didn't have that. In fact, they hardly wore clothes in the other one.
That is very true.
I'm starting to think that the one for the 2010 version just doesn't know the difference between a wool sweater and skin.
I don't think it knows the difference between how to be a good movie and a bad movie.
That too!
I don't think either of these movies really understand that.
That is true. In case you haven't guessed, so for today, we are going to be doing something a little special for our 6th episode. Welcome all to the very first edition of Urban Versus. We are going to take two different adaptations of the same urban legend or cryptid and compare the two films to see which one is better, and in general discuss how that cryptid has been adapted into many forms of media, including the examples that we'll be discussing. Today, we are going to be talking about my personal favorite cryptid of all time, the Mothman.
Wait, that's what we were talking about? I did not get that from either of these films.
What did you think?
Yeah, what did you think it was all about?
I had no idea. I had no idea what was going on. I saw like Man Thing in one of them.
Don't insult Man Thing.
Now, here's the thing. I mean, yeah, he's right about the man thing, but
no, he's not.
Like, in the case of these movies, they have one thing in common, though. It could have been its own movie if they didn't include the Mothman. Personally,
we'll get to both films. But first, let's talk a little bit about the history of the Mothman itself. Our story begins in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where the sightings of the Mothman first began on November 15th, 1966. Starting off with a couple, Dixie and Linda Maxwell, as well as Steve and Mary Mallet, on the same night, spotting a creature with large glowing eyes and standing at the side of the road.
And they never picked him up.
No, of course not. Now, occurrences of the Mothman would continue all around Point Pleasant for almost more than an entire year, spanning from November 15th, 1966, all the way through December 15th, 1967. That was already creepy enough, but the very last time the Mothman was seen was the very same day the famous Point Pleasant Silver Bridge collapsed. Over 46 people died that day, and while it has been contributed to a defect in the bridge itself, many people still like to believe that the Mothman may have had some involvement with it. In addition,
this is the first. I say this is the first cryptid that's actually connected to a historical event.
Right. There were also some people who saw a man by the name, calling himself Indrid Cold, around the same time that the Mothman appeared. Through all of that, the Mothman was never seen again. It has not been seen in anywhere else in Point Pleasant since 1967. Now, it has
made its appearances in other states, though.
Yeah,
Dan,
recently. Dan, didn't you have a friend that actually had their own encounter?
Actually, not a friend, but I know that a certain employee of United actually went to her car sometime around 2, I believe, and she saw like a large black figure that was like about 7 feet tall. And when she turned on her car lights, it turned around, stared at her with red eyes, and then just took off.
Wow.
That's a good.
This was like recently, like 3 years ago. in the United parking lot, no less, outside
Because
of O'Hare
that's because
International Airport.
Mothman at an airport. That's always a good sign.
I
Yeah.
mean, it gave her quite a jump, that's for sure.
Yeah,
But
and here's another creepy thing for you guys. There was one other sighting, also in Moscow, Russia, in 1999, where apparently a man saw the Mothman, and then a couple days later was the Russian apartment bombing.
oh,
Yeah, yeah. With Mothman, he is often believed to be a harbinger of disaster or depicting it. That's why he usually follows me while I'm eating wings.
and here's the thing: I don't know what the Mothman's deal was at O'Hare, but I don't remember any tragedy that happened right after that, unless there was something I missed on the news.
Yeah, that one is like with the apartment bombing, like it was less it probably wasn't posted as much, but according to what I'm reading up right now, like it killed more than 300 people and 1,000 were injured in that bombing.
I did want to bring up something I just think is kind of funny. They believe the Mothman was involved in this big disaster for Point Pleasant, yet Point Pleasant decided let's profit off him.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. Well, to be fair, like the Mothman's popularity, it really didn't become huge until two men came along. Gray Barker with his book, They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers, which is a big thing about cultural phenomenons. And additionally, the John Keel's book, The Mothman Prophecies, which details several people's events about seeing the Mothman right around the time when the Silver Bridge occurred. So, and those two books gave the Mothman a huge amount of cultural attention, and it kind of makes sense that Point Pleasant would then try to ape off of that a little bit. And now there's actually a festival that started in the 2000s, and it is still there to this year.
And a statue.
And a statue, of course, of a solid silver statue that you could still see in there to this very day. And
That people ogle the ass of for some weird reason.
we're not talking about that one.
Cake.
We're not talking about that story. But it's kind of funny that the Mothman has really become this really huge cultural phenomenon, up there with like the likes of Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and the El Chupacabra, in terms of notoriety in the cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah. Also, did you say the El Chupacabra? You just said the twice.
No, I said El Chupacabra.
Shame on you.
Fuck off. But the thing is, I've always loved about the Mothman is that a couple of things. One, it's tied to a real event, and no less a disaster. So it really gives this really eerie idea that there may have been something else out there causing a lot of these problems. And additionally, what I love about the Mothman is that it's an omen of death wherever it goes. Like, as soon as you see it, something terrible will occur. It's almost kind of like the classic black cat depiction, where if it walks past you, bad luck will occur. And I've always found the Mothman to be very intriguing with how mysterious yet how terrifying it could be just to see it. And of course, I was gonna say a fun fact. Originally, they wanted to call it the Batman, but DC wasn't having it. Yeah, well, ironically, because they ended up making a villain that was based on the Mothman for Batman, which is of course Killer Moth. But that's a whole different story for another day. But there have been like some reports saying that perhaps it was an owl that people saw, or maybe it was some kind of like some kind of bird of that same effect. Like could have been a fowl, could have been a bird of prey. But the problem is that the site is that not of that size that people could really say, and plus the way that the eyes glow, it's not like the case of light shining in an owl's eyes.
Actually, my dad had a very interesting theory on what Mothman could have been.
Let's hear him.
Yeah, he actually theorized it could have been someone in the Air Force jumped out of a plane with a parachute and wearing goggles.
That's a possibility.
At a right angle with the goggles, it would look like the silhouette of what we see as the Mothman.
Yeah, that could be a simple enough of an explanation. And of course, some people though will say that there's aliens involved with it, considering Indrid Cold being
right.
working alongside with the Mothman, possibly, or maybe he's a physical
Yeah, I
embodiment.
will say
Or
Ingrid
could
Cold is
be
new
the
to me.
Mothman himself.
That's what I was just about to say. Maybe he is the Mothman itself, but in a human form.
But Ingrid Cold is actually new to me. I didn't know that until we actually watched the Mothman Prophecies. I didn't know that.
Me
was
neither.
actually
Me
part of
neither. I thought it was actually pretty cool having like a disembodied voice through through the phone just tell you what's gonna happen. And I actually did.
I do it all
feel
the time
some-
to you, Sippy.
What?
I do that all the time for you, but you just hang up.
I just feel like it's a scam caller every time. Any
Sippy, don't watch that show. It sucks. Don't do it. Don't do it.
well, hey, whatever I do, and if I suffer from it, that's on me.
And I call back an hour and a half later. I told you it sucked.
And he's crying. He's like, I know. What was I thinking?
I told you not to watch Birds of Prey, Dan.
I got curious, okay? I got curious.
You should have just watched the Sonic movie again and you would have been fine.
Curiosity is only for college students.
That's,
Yeah.
at least they're not high school students, which that's the one thing that I hate from the Mothman 2010 film.
We will get there. We will get there.
Now,
Let's finish.
actually, I hope you don't mind. Actually, I hope you don't mind. I wanted to bring this up here. Now, This is a very special episode. It's like the middle of our first season.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how I've been bringing up stories of my father and his encounters with, cryptids and his hunt for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, do you mind if I tell the story? Do you mind if I tell this important story that's been in my family for years? The story of how my father actually became an urban legend.
I think you told us.
Yeah. I think, did we mention this on the show before? Or
Nope. I told you how we tried looking for aliens.
That's true. I remember that one.
Yeah.
All right.
And how we tried hunting Bigfoot.
Yeah. All right. Before you do, I just want to quickly finish off with Indrid Cold and mentioning that aspect.
Yeah, please do. Actually, I'm very curious. On the actual story of
Indrid Cold was actually a thing that was around the time of the Mothman, and since then, his story, she, it, whatever Indrid Cold was, has also been publicized in books like Prophecies, and is, while obviously lesser known, is possibly having some form of influence with the Mothman, since, like the Mothman, no one has seen Indrid Cold since then.
Yeah, I'm amazed the X-Files hasn't done like an episode involving Mothman or Indrid Cold, honestly.
I believe that there was an episode on them, or at least inspired by it. I have to recheck on that one, because I actually have been rewatching X-Files. The closest I could think to that was the episode Detour, which was the 4th episode of the 5th season. But admittedly, that one is more... it's really more like loosely based, if anything, and just more inspired by the Mothman phenomenon.
Oh, like both these films.
No, that one actually can have the spirit actually be a good story. Those two on the other hand, not so much. But continue at last with your story about your father being an urban legend.
All right, so now do you guys know what the Big Boy is?
I think so.
You may as a Dan, you know, like the lard lad from The Simpsons, the guy in the overalls holding up the donut over his head?
I think so.
Yeah, well, that's a parody of something called The Big Boy. It's very popular for burger chains. They go by different names all across the country. The main name's like Bob's Big Boys, which sounds like a strip club, I know. But when my father was younger, he and his brothers liked to steal these like mannequins of horses from restaurants and put them out in the field.
Oh, no.
I asked my dad, why do you do that? He said we had no MTV back then. That's always his thing. He always says no MTV. He needs to realize MTV stopped being cool years ago. But so my father and his brothers decided to go for the big game, the Big Boy that was outside the restaurant that's here. The restaurant is called Frisch's while I'm around. And what he did was, first off, these statues are bolted to the ground. So I bet you think that, clearly he gave up. No, he and his brothers hid in bushes for about 6 to 8 hours, unscrewing them without anyone noticing. And then And then he didn't realize they were hollow. I'm gonna get that away right now. They put it in the back of the truck. Then the police start. Then they heard the police siren. They tried to escape. The big boy fell out of the truck, got shattered. They just kept on going. And this story's been told for years, and I'm only allowed to tell it now because it's like, it's not legally binding to my father anymore at this point. He did this when he was a teenager. So, but now you're wondering, how does this make him an urban legend? Well, years later, my mother would work at this restaurant as a higher up, and apparently there was a story of a group of kids that tried stealing the Frisch's Big Boy statue and got destroyed. But it's only an urban legend. My mother did not respond to this. She just walked away. So I could proudly say my father is a living urban legend, and I think we should respect him for this.
Maybe he'll get his own episode on this show.
I just want the lost tapes of him. Of him taking the Frisch's Big Boy statue.
God, I could imagining him in the opening of a new season of Lost Tapes.
Yeah, actually, no. It's like the Blair Witch, heavy breathing. Oh, God. Okay. Was he stealing that? Oh, my God.
We know what we should do? We should probably have him on an episode and interview him about what it's like being an urban legend.
But yes, I just had to explain that because, I told the other two stories. I had to tell the story, though. This story was a big part of my family. To a point, I didn't know my father was in the Air Force, but I knew about this.
Yeah. And speaking of urban legends, going back to the Mothman here. So, our two adaptations that we're going to be discussing today are, well, not
bisexual Mothman mailman.
Stop. We're not going there. Not going there. Anyways, but
that's real, by the way, people. That's real. That's the society we live in.
I know. Don't remind us.
The packages were going to be delivered.
Fuck off. Anyways, but with the Mothman, you would think
I think that was also what was going to happen.
Shut the fuck up. You would think that with a presence and the cultural phenomenon like the Mothman, you'd think, okay, this could be a great film idea, to discuss either, the effects that he has on people's lives and that he's connected to this natural disaster. We do a lot of psychological films, perhaps. Well, for some reason, studios just can't get that character right, because the two films that we have today...
Yeah, not even a lot of TV shows use them.
No, not really. Surprisingly enough, not even the Secret Saturdays, the cartoon show about cryptids, used Mothman. They used Owlman in a really great episode. Yeah,
Owlman.
Yeah, from
not the Batman villain.
That you're not familiar with the cryptid, the Owlman from the UK?
No, I'm only familiar with the Owlman from DC Comics.
See?
Okay, then I got to
start. He's familiar with James Woods.
But with our two movies today, the sci-fi film, simply called The Mothman. I'm not calling it the Sci-Fi Channel because that is insulting. Chan. Yeah, that is insulting to the word sci-fi.
And not only that, 90% of their movies are also just shark-based. I'm surprised they didn't even call it just Shark Week.
I'm surprised we didn't get Shark Moth.
Yeah, from the people that brought you Sharknado, Sharktopus versus Whale Wolf, and Zombie Shark. Yeah, these are all real.
Good Lord.
Yeah, they're all real. And also,
these are movies that you could get laid to. Okay?
No, don't say that. No, you.
I
want to
meet the Chad that lost his virginity during Sharknado.
There is some sick bastard who is just getting laid off to these movies.
Now, here's the thing. If you tried to show
Hey, baby, are you in the mood? Because I got the movie for you. Is that Sharktopus? You know it.
No. Here's what would happen. If you remotely suggested that. Oh, hang on. If you remotely suggested that to a girl, she would immediately say, I'm breaking up with you. There's no way she would accept that.
I'm taking back my virginity.
Yeah, I demand the rights back to my virginity. And also, by Sony Pictures, The Mothman Prophecies.
And like most things by Sony, it's Sony.
Yeah.
It's a 50-50 shot. Sometimes not even that.
So, in terms of...
Would you say that this is a hit or a miss, The Mothman Prophecies, I mean?
I would say it's
As a Mothman movie, they're both misses.
Yeah, they're as Mothman movies, they're both misses. As for, I guess,
No misters.
yeah, I'd say as a film on its own, it's fine. It's
basically the poor man's I Know What You Did Last Summer or
that's basically it. It's like a very awkward, weak episode of the X-Files.
But I loved what caused all this. I really do. Can I explain how this opens?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So it opens with what everyone loves seeing in horror movies: teenagers.
No!
No. That's the
I will
2010.
kill myself with the monster wolf!
No, that's the other one. We're talking about Prophecies.
Ew, no, never mind. That's not funny. Go ahead. You talk about that. I thought we were talking about Prophecies.
Anyway.
I
just said we're starting with Prophecies first.
No.
Anyway, so
I just thought we got the turd out of the way first before we get to the polished one.
that's that. No. We're getting the polished
How
one
about we
first.
talk about the 2010 Mothman? Please, I'd like to get all this anger out.
No, I like to delay it inevitable because I like to torture you. Anyways,
just hold it in, Dan. Just
hold it in. Just sither. Let it sither.
Hold it in until we unleash the turd. That is the
exactly. Now, it's now.
None of you will be safe. None of you will be spared.
So I can definitely tell, though, with Prophecies that there's definitely a lot of compromises with this film because originally the film's script was by Richard Haddam, who who basically took Keel's book almost verbatim and trying to be more of a docudrama, like the Mothman Prophecies the book was, and that it was discussing, all these people seeing the Mothman and then leading to the end of with the Silver Bridge being destroyed. However,
go ahead. I was gonna bring up something I did realize because there's another movie that kind of went through a similar issue when it comes to adaptations.
Yeah, because additionally, the original director of the film, Carl Franklin, who was known for making a lot of solid all through the 80s and all through the 90s. Probably is one of his most well-known was Devil in a Blue Dress, which starred Denzel Washington. But Carl Franklin, unfortunately, was eventually replaced by Mark Pellington. Unfortunately, it kind of really shows that this was kind of one of his earliest feature film examples because beforehand, he had a couple of independent movies, only 2 of them. Both of them admittedly did well award-wise, and were 2 nice independent films. But this was his very first studio film, and it really tells that he wasn't ready to go into this because he changed a lot of the original script. And unfortunately, that was not for the better for this movie's sake.
Yeah, I was gonna say another movie that kind of went through this was World War Z because that has nothing to do with what the book was because the book was also kind of told the same way as the Mothman Prophecies, where it was more of a fictional reporter interviewing people that were at these zombie wars and all that. But obviously, they just took the name and made it into just used as just brand recognition, basically.
Yeah. And the only real big faithfulness, for the movie and the book is that there was because in the book, John Keel, after going through so many people interviewing them, he came to the conclusion that there were hallucinations caused by psychosis, which in the film tries to kind of play up to that this is more psychological. But the problem is that it doesn't really find a right balance between the two. There's no sense of mystery with the Mothman itself and the psychological nature of all these people seeing this thing that they can't comprehend.
Yeah, the best way to describe this film is kind of just like the worst X-Files episode, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very weak episode of the X-Files. There's certainly some positive aspects to discuss, but it's definitely not as strong as I really want it to be honest. It's a film that I really want to like, but I just can't. It
opened with a hit and run accident with the Mothman. You think that'd be a great start.
Yeah, the movie actually does start off pretty damn strong. I'll give it that. Right off the bat, it starts off strong. And then
not really, because it starts off in the wrong time and the wrong time period.
No, well, that too, yeah. But I mean, in terms of setting itself up with the psychological aspect and how our main character is, affected by it and how he proceeds through it with, seeing and experiencing all these weird stuff with the Mothman that may or may not be involved. I don't know.
Probably wasn't.
And at the same time, you got to first of all, we got to say like the cast that they got for this movie was great. Got Richard Gere, Laura Linney.
They had great actors.
Yeah, all of them are really solid actors, and everyone,
and very quiet actors.
Well, I was about to get to that. They all do a good job, but there is one issue that we have with the cast. For some reason, with Mark Pellington's directing, he has a lot of the times where the actors whisper. Now, sometimes...
All right, guys, the cameraman has hearing problems, so be quiet.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, I didn't take much issue with this because I was actually watching the movie with subtitles.
Well, you're smart. You did the right thing. Me and Will did not. The thing is, that's fine sometimes, but there were some times where I will admit, I had to like raise my volume up to like 60 just to hear what was going on.
The worst was the opening before the car accident when they were whispering and then screaming right in your ear.
Yeah. That was the worst because my ears kind of popped up when that happened because of how loud I had to make the TV.
Yeah, actually, I heard the voices on the phone better than them themselves.
You heard Injured Cold better.
Yeah, I heard Injured Cold.
Another problem I think, another problem with the film is also its runtime because it's roughly 2 hours.
Yeah, it's way too.
It feels a lot longer than it needs to.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. I was dreading watching this. I was dreading to watch this film because I know it was gonna be long and very boring, like the worst porn star.
God.
I was curious on it, but I was like, I gotta agree, it was way
at least with the sci-fi one, I can make fun of the acting. Here, the actors are good, but but they're also boring at the same time.
I can't even do that with that movie, but we'll get to there. It's also, there's a lot of really confusing moments with it. So one of the biggest things about the film is that our character Richard Gere, aka his character John Clean, he's going through a really tough Mr. Clean, or Klein. Is it Klein? I forgot it. Like,
I'm gonna call him Mr. Clean. I don't care what anyone else says.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Like, imagine
clean that smirk off Mothman's face.
Richard Gere's just like has a shaved off head and like a goatee, he's wearing all white. He recently is dealing with the death of his wife, as becomes a sort of like a big time reporter, I think was the word I'd use. Like, was it a reporter or more like a host?
Kind of both, I guess.
Yeah.
Because he did have his own show.
Right.
And he was part of the Washington Post.
Right, and additionally, he's in this weird spot where he's driving down to Virginia, but ends up in Point Pleasant. It's almost like he's kind of trapped when he keeps on trying to leave. He ends up being back in the same location that as he started, and then sometimes he just is able to come back out of it after a little while. If you can't tell, the plot's also the plot here is very confusing because it doesn't really make a lot of sense on what exactly is going on and why it's happening. Because you could say it's the Mothman, but at the same time, it doesn't really fully explain it. And even if it tries to leave it up in mystery, it's to the point where it just feels nonsensical.
I will say, though, I actually did like I'm not going to call it the Mothman because, it technically is the Mothman. I did like I'm just calling it the entity that they depicted because they gave it a very, as Dan would say, either Lovecraft or Eldritch vibe to it. Yeah. It's something that's above humanity.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's beyond our comprehension.
Yeah, especially with how their eyes react to seeing it.
Right. And to be fair, I mean, that isn't necessarily out of context with the Mothman itself, because, I could imagine that the Mothman would be something eldritch in nature.
Yeah, but at the same time, it really didn't, even the sightings didn't describe the Mothman as what he should look like. They just say, at best, the big red eyes.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, they just more have used it as a template for a psychological Lovecraft-style storyline.
Yeah, though, like we said in the opening, I think Ingrid Cold as the antagonist would have been a lot better.
Yeah, and we do get him in, and we do get Ingrid Cold throughout the whole film, and he does play a big significant role. Even if most of it resorts down to basically playing Ghostface and Scream. There were plenty of good moments with with him and as well as the other cast, but there's just not too much to really work with. Also, I gotta admit, I'm not sure if doing the collapse of the Silver Bridge was a good idea. And what I mean by that is
especially in the wrong time. mainly my issue was it's at the wrong time period. They for some reason moved us up to 2004, 2002 when this film was made, and
2002,
also.
yeah.
And the most disrespectful part is they lessened how many people died on it.
Yeah, I don't even know why they did that too. Because like the reason was because apparently it was so one of the other main characters, a cop, like meant to be the 37th victim.
Yeah, I like how forgettable she was to a point we didn't mention her whatsoever.
Yeah, I know. Well, that should tell you right there, like how forgettable the characters are.
She wasn't that intriguing, to be honest.
No, not really. I mean,
yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I did skip a few minutes in the movie every once in a while.
I did. I started doing it at the end too. So you're not the only one.
Yeah, I just could. Like when they were talking about Mothman. Oh, that was interesting, but it kind of felt like they weren't talking about it a whole lot.
No, like the Mothman. It's the same problem I think that is with the 2014 Gareth Edwards Godzilla film, in that
it's in the title, but he's not a big part in it.
Right, it's not necessarily screen time here. It's the fact that he doesn't have, like, he's not the focus.
Yeah.
And the Mothman was not much of the I mean, it kind of was. It wasn't really to the point when it really feels like it.
Like I said, you could just make it Ingrid Cole. You got Ingrid Cole because you got more of him than you did Mothman.
Yeah, that's the problem. And additionally to that, why isn't there, even if you want to just show the Mothman like in the flashbacks, fine, but at least show the Mothman itself. Ugh, but it just feels.
Yeah, so you need some physical as you want this to have. You want to have at least one glimpse of it, not these weird paintings and drawings of it. I thought that gave off a nice vibe, but without actually getting an actual glimpse of it, it kind of just took away any interest.
Yeah, this is the main reason why I've never been like too keen on Hollywood doing these films on cryptids and urban legends, because they're not going to really get this or understand it or even try to. And even if they want to want people to show it, they just think it's probably going to be too silly of a thing to show in theaters.
Yeah, but like I said, with the bridge thing, you kind of feel you can say what you want about Mothman not being real, whatever, but the bridge thing was an actual thing. It actually happened.
I know, exactly. And you got to discuss that, because that's a big, that is something that is discussed upon by a lot of people.
Right. I say they can't just say no one's gonna take this seriously because it's just an urban legend, but that part actually happened.
I know, that's the problem. And even then, like, it's kind of weird because like they put obviously more focus on the mystery of the fact that something's gonna collapse than the Mothman itself. And even then, like I said, I don't think it was a good idea to like show like the Silver Bridge collapsing itself, despite that it's a really great set piece and a really great sequence.
And it wasn't a great twist where at first he thought the power plant was going to explode or something, but then it's real, it's the bridge. It's like, wow, thank God some people don't know the legend, or else this would have been a twist. This be a great twist.
Yeah, seriously. And also, like, I don't know, like, for me, I think they should have just showed the aftermath of the bridge. I don't know if, like, because thinking about
kind of like how Oppenheimer showed the aftermath, kind of like what Oppenheimer did.
Yes, exactly. Much more like what Oppenheimer did. I would have preferred something like that, because I don't know, like, because seeing the bridge collapsing,
it is distasteful. It's kind of like,
it's
kind of like showing 9/11 or something like that. You just,
Yeah, that's why, like, hell, I mean, they kind of did that. The only exception I could think of is kind of Chernobyl, but even then, it was like a very small glimpse of when
Postal.
Okay, kind of Postal.
But that's not a movie. That doesn't count as a movie. So
yeah, exactly. Like, but
no, I mean, the actual movie adaptation of Postal doesn't count as the actual movie.
I know, exactly. but with Chernobyl, like the HBO series, that didn't really, like, it kind of showed it, but like it was like a very small glimpse, and it was there for a reason. Like, it made sense to show it at least once because of the story they were telling. But here, I don't know. Like, I feel like you didn't really need to show this. Maybe
I did like the fact they had the ending text though that said they had no idea what happened to the bridge, and that Mothman has been seen all around the world, but never again in Point Pleasant.
Yeah,
I did like that part. I at least like that they kind of kept. At least they acknowledged that Mothman, actually is seen by people. It's not just a legend.
Yeah. Like, I do like that they at least acknowledge that it is something that it may be still out there. They still keep that mystery at the end. Too bad the rest of the movie doesn't really do a good job at it.
Yeah, speaking of the end, let's talk about the next turd.
Yeah, well, first, before we do, let's get initial thoughts here, final thoughts here. So, What do you
Dan,
guys
you want to go
think?
first since you've been kind of quiet?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't say much in the similarities with Oppenheimer that you guys mentioned because I haven't seen the movie yet.
Right.
I haven't either,
Yeah.
but I know how it opens.
But again, I think it's interesting that they use the Mothman for this movie, for the Prophecies movie, but I feel like it's just clickbait, to be honest, because
Mhm.
aside from the inaccuracies, I feel like the movie would have done okay if they just removed any notion about the Mothman and just kept the part about Indrid Cold in it. To its credit, yes, the actors are really good, but like you guys had trouble with like the whispering and everything, I didn't really have that much trouble because I was again with subtitles.
Fucking
Because
weeb.
now here's the thing: the reason why I did subtitles was because
The
I can't
whispering.
sit, I can't isolate background noise. So
Okay.
having subtitles actually helps.
Yeah, no,
Mm.
I do have to say, when you said that it's just clickbait, I instantly wanted to rename this movie Nice Thick Tomboys.
Of course,
This movie
you would.
fucking lied to me!
But anyways, to be honest, I'm gonna give it some credit and say that I actually enjoyed this movie for what it's worth. And there was certain parts in it that actually felt like a documentary at times when the reporter was actually going around Point Pleasant and actually asking these people about their individual experiences with the Mothman, like the guy who has that bloodied eye.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, okay, this turned from a movie into a documentary. That's a cool and interesting twist, but I didn't take my eyes off it. So
Yeah, but I would love this to have been something like Legend of Boggy Creek, but with Mothman and Point Pleasant.
I was just about to say that. I think that with the idea of this film, and especially adapting off the book, that works far better as being a docudrama, where you see some reenactments with people still being interviewed by it. Like if this was like a Jack Pierce film, he would have definitely, I think, would have been a much greater movie. But unfortunately, we got the film that we got, and unfortunately, no one has tried to touch an adaptation of the Mothman prophecy since then, and that's a shame because I do think that book is worth telling.
Well, there is one brave studio and channel that decided to touch the concept of the Mothman.
That's a different thing. I'm talking about the book specifically.
Well, you know, Hollywood hates books.
Yeah, they hate comic books, obviously.
And now they're starting to hate Tolkien, from what I've seen.
Well, that's not surprising. But with the Mothman prophecies, there's plenty of good stuff. Like Zippy mentioned, the cast is great. The atmosphere, could be really good. I should also really mention the music of Prophecies because the music is really good.
it really is.
Creative Lab Tom and Danny, composed of two composers, Andy Milburn and Thomas Hajdu. Probably mispronouncing that last name.
I swear he said, "How'd you do?"
How you doing? But no, they actually have had some pretty good soundtracks over the years, and their one for Mothman is was excellent. And admittedly, they haven't really done a lot of great movies in recent years, like Sinister 2 and Resident Evil Retribution.
Hey, it's like the bad guy from Morbius. Good actor, doesn't really pick a lot of good roles.
No, not really, but. I mean, the score for Mothman is still pretty good, and I definitely would recommend at least listening to that. But as for the film itself, it's okay. It's not a movie that you're really going to remember. And honestly, I'd only really recommend it if you're a big fan of the Mothman and want to see how a studio film goes about adapting it.
I wouldn't really recommend this if someone wanted to see a Mothman movie. I'd recommend it if they wanted to see like a psychological thriller with some fantasy elements.
That's why I emphasize. That's why, like, personally, I would say with the Mothman, that's kind of not saying a lot because this really isn't much of an adaptation. But if you're curious, I'd check it out.
Yes, if you like X-Files, you might like this because it had a similar tone to it.
Yeah. And there's certainly a place for that when it comes to adapting the Mothman. Just this example, it was not the best of quality. There are plenty of better ones out there.
At least it took it a lot more seriously than the other entry on our list.
I was to say, there's also our other one.
Yeah, speaking of which, that leads us next into the Sippy film, just simply called the Mothman.
Sippy-chan.
Sippy-chan.
The elephant turd in the room.
The elephant turd in the room, which, the let's go. Let's dive into that one now.
Can I talk about how this all starts, please?
Do it, please.
Go ahead.
Before we get to Sippy's rant, I want to explain what sets this whole thing off. First things first, like we said before, it is pretty much I Know What You Did Last Summer, or It pretty much has that same premise of a group of kids. One leaves town after something bad that happened, then comes back and the whole thing starts over. It's like I said, you've seen that premise 1,000 times, but how this starts, it just really takes it. First, it opens up with what everyone loves seeing in horror movies: teenagers. Ew.
As the quote Ivan Ooze, teenagers.
Yeah. And one of them accidentally dies from a prank that the other ones caused here, and they were overreacting. Going, "Oh, we're getting in trouble," and I can't help but think, can't you just say you drowned, or just say it was an accident? I feel like you might get off easy here. But then one said, "No, we need to make it feel like a real accident. Everyone, grab a rock and let's bash his head in." Okay, as soon as you do that, the cops aren't gonna, go easy on you at that point.
At this point, I mean, forensics are going to know. They are going to figure out that yes, it was. How is he gonna hit his head on a rock multiple times?
Yeah, like I said, I feel like
These
okay, guys,
kids just fuck themselves.
Yeah, just say he drowned or something. You'll get off. Get off easy. As soon as you bash his head, and there's really no going back.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing. One constant in horror movies that I truly hate, that I really despise, are fucking teenagers. To be honest, I can forgive the Friday the 13th series because that's the reason why Jason is on his own rampage, because he hates teenagers just as well as I do.
He hates teenagers and sex. He thinks they're both gross.
And here's the thing, I was watching the whole prologue of the movie, and I just thought, are these kids just fucking stupid? At this point, I just want them to get caught and just spare us this turd of a movie.
Did you see the opening title for the movie? Because I almost missed it.
What was it?
Yeah.
It was in the fucking corner.
Yeah, it was tiny and in the and on the side. What? Because they were focusing on the teenagers swimming and the girls in bikinis.
Fuck titles. We need titties.
Exactly. And
here's
also,
the thing: 10 years? They got away with it for 10 years?
It's not a big town. The murders probably happen all the time.
They would have been incarcerated. They would have been behind bars.
And from what we've seen from Valera's story, arresting them won't do anything.
And I should mention this too. By the way, this is not an Asylum movie. Surprisingly enough, Asylum had nothing to do with it. Yet you wouldn't think that because it feels like one.
I don't give a shit. I just hate the movie. Here's the thing. Right after the whole murder thing, the whole kickstart to the I Know What You Did Last Summer kind of plot, I just felt numb. I felt numb just watching this movie.
Yes.
And sometimes I would just flake in and out, just like... I was just like, don't care. Then jump scare. I'm like, oh, I forgot to react.
Yeah.
That's me speaking out of pity.
Yeah, this movie had all the horror tropes, like no one in the town believes the Mothman except for the one crazy old man.
Yeah, and
but here's the thing. Point Pleasant should be the place where a lot of the Mothman sightings took place. Shouldn't there be more people aside from just one loony old man?
Yeah, and
that's kind of the thing.
And even weirder is the fact that they still have the fucking festival there.
Exactly.
The
whole reason why they have the festival is to celebrate and also show awareness of the Mothman. And that's what people come all around the world to see, so that they can get eyewitness accounts to get to the story.
They also apparently couldn't afford a replica of the statue or even footage of it to make
seriously,
it look like
they could have seriously filmed it.
I don't think Point Pleasant wanted anything to do with this movie.
No, I don't think so either.
Who's making this movie? The Sci-Fi Channel? Ew, no, we don't want to involve in that.
No, Sci-Fi Channel. It's not sci-fi. That's insulting to the word sci-fi.
Harry Sci-Fi Chan.
Feces.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
I don't want Feces Chan. I don't like that.
Yeah. The moment.
Should I commission an artist to design Sci-Fi Chan?
Well, we could get JV to do it.
Please no.
The
Please no.
moment,
I don't want
though-
a VTuber for the Sippy channel.
And they have they have shark related memorabilia all over their outfit.
Oh God.
Oh, there was a shark VTuber. Never mind.
Oh no! Imagine if Leafy has to deal with that. And suddenly that pops up on her channel. But here's the thing: the moment I knew this was going to be shit was
As soon as you saw it was on Sci-Fi.
Well, that too, and also the fact that they had the little campfire story talking about the ledge of the Mothman, and I'm like, okay, here we go.
I bet you never heard a story of the Mothman. I live in fucking Point Pleasant. That's my bedtime story.
Yeah,
dumbass.
seriously. Like, and I'm thinking to myself, how do you people not know the legend? Okay, so the kid that dies, like, he acts like he's heard about it, but he doesn't. But I'm thinking to myself,
I guess it's
you
just
guys
that
live here. How would you not know
to
that?
know everything so that you can belong?
Like, it was miserable to watch. Like you, Sippy, it was such a dull time. I was bored out of my mind with this.
I do have
And
to
here's
ask,
the thing: they don't show much of the depths.
Not really, no. They just show you
It's
the
not
damage.
as gory
that's
as
what
you
Sippy
would
wanted the
expect.
most. That's what
I
Sippy
wanted
the
to
most.
see them suffer, okay? Because these were horrible human beings that needed to suffer.
This is Sippy's porn, seeing teenagers die in horror movies.
They can't do it right themselves. I'll do it.
Sippy just like as he's watching the movie, he's like when the Mothman shows up, he grabs like the tissues and the.
Sir, put on your pants. Leave me alone.
I need to see them die.
But here's the thing: I still get cockblocked. Because I don't see anything. I don't. See
Okay, what am I gonna
nothing.
do with this now?
Everything else is just in the shadows or just after the deed.
After the deed.
But,
you know what's I can make it really worse for you, Sippy. You know the worst part is
What?
how much they waste the main lead of this movie, Jula Stady, who unfortunately is a big TV actress in her time. She was
actually a big star on a lot of Sci-Fi Channel original series.
Mainly Stargate Atlantis.
How come Sci-Fi was good with series but not movies?
You know what? I've never heard of this actress, but I feel very ashamed that this is the one movie where I'm introduced her to.
Yeah,
everyone
trust
has
me.
that. Everyone has that experience.
Yeah, trust me. I have. I've been there before.
First.
I would feel more bad for the guy if this movie was their first look into Mothman.
Yeah.
Now that reminds me. What do you guys think of Mothman's design in this?
Terrible.
We actually get it.
Terrible.
It's the swamp thing with a black dye job.
Don't
I love
don't
the face 'cause
insult
it looks
Swamp Thing or Man Thing.
I love the face because it looks like he's saying, "Oh snap."
No.
feel
That's the face.
nothing.
No, that's the
Again,
face I make when I
don't.
was watching the movie, asking somebody to kill me.
Yeah, and as you can see from my thumbnail, it's also the face that the crying lady makes when she points at the cat.
Yes. God, where do I start with this? First of all, Sippy, you want to take it from here with the CG to talk about the effects, if they even are effects?
This is your time, Sippy.
CGI moths! Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You couldn't do even moths right?
Whoa. They don't have a moth budget. What's wrong with you?
Seriously,
It could have been fine even without the moths, okay?
you could have.
It's Mothman. What's the point? What's the point of Mothman? What's the point
That's
of there's no
overselling
moth
it!
and no
That's overselling it! And you just
First off, there's
wasting
no
all this money on
overselling
cheap
anything in this
effects.
film.
It's like I'm watching Food Fight.
Food fight. And
Terrible. It's like Food Fight is trying to implement itself into the real world.
I want
Imagine
that
that.
movie. Why didn't we watch that? That sounds way better. Wait, also, wasn't Food Fight airing in the real world? Wouldn't that have been Sausage Party at the end?
they're eating children, fucking children.
Now, another thing. Yeah, the Mothman acts nothing like the Mothman in this.
It's just a vengeful spirit, something that Mothman isn't.
Good news is though they get the date the bridge was destroyed, how many fatalities there were, right? But it was very distasteful what happened.
Yeah, and the way it was executed as well. I'd argue even more distasteful than than it was in Mothman Prophecies.
Yeah, basically, Mothman destroyed the whole bridge just to get rid of a handful of people. Basically, Mothman was like, "You messed up, so now it's everyone's problem."
Yeah, seriously, that I thought was very disrespectful to have. At least with
Very disrespectful and stupid.
Yes, at least with Prophecies, it made sense because the Mothman was the omen of death. In this movie's case, I really hated that the only reason why he did it was because, oh yeah, these people that hold this secret, so you all die from it. Like, get the fuck
Yeah, I don't know
outta
what a
here with
secret
that.
thing came. I think at one point this wasn't meant to be Mothman because he
I
goes
don't
through
think
mirrors.
so
I
at
think at
all.
one point this meant to be Bloody Mary.
That's the thing. I think it would have worked way better as a Bloody Mary film. It still would have been shit.
That's what I'm saying.
But at least it would have been
That's what I'm saying. I think they might.
Mhm.
They might have wanted to do a Bloody Mary film, but Sci-Fi probably had like 100 of those, so they told them to do something different or throw sharks in there.
That would have made way more sense to have it be Bloody Mary, because the
Even
Mothman
like a
comes
native,
out of the
or even something from Native American lore because they added the Apache chief in there.
That was weird, adding that part in there. What was the point of that? And especially the quote unquote backstory of the Mothman in this.
Yeah, they said they summoned the most feared spirit that they do not say the word of. I was like, the Skinwalker or the Wendigo. That's like 1,000 of those. Oh, Mothman. Oh, I didn't know that was a Native American spirit, but whatever.
That's because it's not. There's
and
no...
also I was kind of upset they didn't mention Ingrid Cole. That could have been a good middleman. I could have been the blind guy.
I was about to say, I think the blind guy was kind of meant to be a sort of Ingrid Cole's type of role.
That would have been interesting, but no. Yeah, also the blind guy, he was the only interesting character in this whole thing.
Yeah, he was literally the only part worth watching. Because the actor Jerry Allegio, he's been in a couple of films, in recent years. He was of course in the Camelot musical as King Arthur. Also, he was in a couple of horror films, one being Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, which is a very good psychological thriller.
Yeah,
but
and did you say he was in the Camelot musical?
Yes.
Well, to me, Ralph will always be Sir Lancelot. I had to make a Simpsons reference.
I know you did. And he's even done a couple of good shows since then. I mean, he was in American Horror Story.
And then he was in this. So I guess everyone has like the downsides.
Yeah, this was obviously a paycheck movie for him, but at least he was kind of trying.
Yeah, you know what's weird though is they wasted so much CGI on this Mothman. They probably could have just made a costume.
They easily could have.
Because Mothman's not a complex depiction.
No, and hell, you could have, like, the moths themselves, you could have easily got, like, a puppet, like, a prop guy to make puppets. Exactly. Remote-controlled moths or something. Then again, this is the Sci-Fi channel, where CG is the name of the game.
Well, it's the name of the game, but they can't afford it.
Yeah, exactly.
Very upset how little sharks there were in this film.
Yeah, not enough sharks. 0 out of 10.
What about the Shark Man? That would have been a great monster.
No, the moth shark.
Well, well, I mean,
man moth shark.
What's even weirder is considering that 5 years prior to that, there was the film Mosquito Man. If you guys remember that movie,
I don't remember that at all.
Oh,
but hey, what if this movie could have been Nanawe's origin? You know, Killer Shark, no King Shark. And it could have had
the origin of
Sylvester
King Shark
Stallone again.
That would have made it better.
Nom nom.
Yeah. That was actually a film with actually a lot of budget, a budget to it, and they actually made a suit for it, and it actually looked good. So it makes me wonder, why couldn't they just do that for the fucking Mothman?
Yeah, you know, honestly, compared to the CGI that we got, I would have just accepted like a full-on black suit with glowing eyes and a cape.
Sadly, so would I. Like, I would much more accept that than the fucking awful
I would say, well,
CGI
at least it looks
got.
like how people drew them. At least it looks like how people drew them, so I'm excited.
I don't know why sure about that. I don't think
face.
so.
I don't know why he has the scream face.
Maybe that's the face he makes when he realizes how his movies are going to go well.
Yeah, actually, I want it at the end of the movie where she says, "I'm sorry for what happened to that kid." Mothman was like, "Oh, I was trying to get you for what you did in the bathroom. What did you do to a kid?"
You know, if I were to try to find anything even remotely positive about the movie,
Our jokes we made about it.
Yeah, they say, well, that speaks for itself. But I kind of like the cameras they use. Like at least it looks not as like badly digital as some of the other sci-fi films that are out. They're out there at this time. At least it looks a little bit more presentable, but that ain't saying much. And to be honest, we really wish there's much we could talk about this movie, but like even with the ending, which is like this huge like moment where the Mothman's going on a rampage for some reason.
Yeah, also I did love when they said keep looking to the skies, referencing what was the name of that show?
Thing from another. Are you referring to the thing from another world with Watch the Skies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I cannot help but think, just stop taking from other better things and try to be your own thing. I know you're horrible at it, but at least do it.
Well, that's a good thing. Don't reference a good movie in your shitty movie.
Yeah. Also, how come none of the people of Point Pleasant thought to themselves, hey, see, I told you he was real? Everyone was like, oh my god, he's real. Then why are we at this event?
Also, the ending, like the very ending of the movie is really odd. So, okay, so first of all, they pull out, in reference of all movies, or at least I like to think it was, Jason Goes to Hell the final Friday with a dagger, which is the only thing that can kill the Mothman.
Because, yes.
Yes.
And apparently he can jump from body to body.
You know, one thing that upset me about both these films are they could have easily made Mothman like the symbol of destiny and have him be the metaphor for destiny, where you wonder if he could be changed or if it's set in stone.
You could even have it where it's like a tale of, is destiny fate, is fate like something we can't stop, or is fate based on our choices?
Yeah, they actually have that how they defeated the Mothman. They changed the destiny of one person and Mothman just disappears.
Right. Like that easily could have been very fascinating because.
But no, this is Sci-Fi Channel. They needed a quick unintelligent way out.
Yeah, that sci-fi channel. Like they don't believe in good writing.
What was the last movie we watched? That Friday the 13th. All right, do what they did.
Yeah, and also the ending. I don't even know what the fuck this is for. So. After
for the sequel trilogy,
yeah, for the potential sequel where our main heroine, is in the hospital with her love interest that she hasn't seen in 10 years at that point, and suddenly they slowly got back together.
I don't know why she didn't want to hang out after we murdered that kid.
So apparently she got possessed by the Mothman, and then she burst into moths and attacked him, and that's the end of the movie. What?
I think every guy's been in that scenario with their girl at one point or another.
Hey, baby, want some lamps?
Also, I guess that just means the honeymoon phase is over.
Always. So yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not much to talk about other than it's a dull, boring piece of shit that's expected from the sci-fi channel.
And wasn't really about Mothman.
Nope. Like all the other adaptations.
Just wait. We're at a pretty progressive age nowadays. Just wait until we get Mothchan.
Oh God, I'm waiting.
There probably is one. I won't lie. I probably.
There's been plushie Mothman, obviously, but yeah, if you haven't guessed, don't watch it.
So, should we rate both films in some way?
I would say that Prophecies is at least worth 2.5 moths out of 5, and this movie is 1 moth out of 5. No, actually, I take that back. Half a moth out of 5.
So if you want a good Mothman movie, look up Mothra. any Mothra related film. I know it's in Japanese, but I feel like it's closer.
Or watch sadly watch the Lost Tapes episode of Mothman. Because that's sadly the best thing that came. That
was the better version of the Mothman Prophecies.
Yeah, that's saying something too. When of all shows, Lost Tapes about found footage horror cryptids being your best example, that's really bad.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to show Dan that series. Oh, Dan, the sites we have to show you.
Oh yeah.
I guess I could just give Mothman Prophecies 3.5 moths out of 5, and I'll just consider the Mothman 2010 SippyVA movie a completely shattered to a glass surface.
Yeah, now as Mothman movies, both these movies were terrible as Mothman movies.
Yeah.
But as
And-
the better film, the Prophecies is the
Yeah,
better
by
film.
far Prophecies. That's not saying much, but that's only because Mothman has
We
not-
comparing it to a Sci-Fi Channel original movie, so yeah, that's not gonna be. It's not
Yeah, there's
really
not much
of a
competition there.
And at least Prophecies actually tries.
Yeah, so it's like comparing the Meg to Sharknado is basically the same, but one still looks better.
There's
If
not.
anything, this is unfair, honestly, because we're trying to pit a sci-fi movie, which is a natural bust, to something that's actually trying to be a good movie.
Yeah, but
You were
we
being
were
tried.
comparing more of how accurate both were. Actually, you know what? That's a question. Which one do you think was more accurate to the Legend of the Mothman?
Prophecies.
Prophecies, at least in atmosphere and tone, it feels more of what you expect from a Mothman film.
Yeah, I only take away points on it just because of the inaccurate time period, but yeah between the two, they talked more about the lore of Mothman and all that than the actual Mothman movie.
It was confusing and poorly executed how the way it went about it, but at least it got some of its right. This movie, on the other hand, kind of the faithfulness, but other than that, no. There's not much going on. But to be fair, that really goes to show that Mothman is another one of those cryptids that for some reason hasn't gotten the right adaptation yet.
Which is amazing considering that's the one cryptid that actually has a story behind it. Well, one of the few.
Yeah, like the one that you'd really think would be perfect to adapt into film.
Actually, Mothman is kind of like Resident Evil when it comes to movie adaptations. You think it'd be a good movie adaptation, but yet no one's made a good one yet.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, one thing I did want to mention, since we haven't for the past couple of times we've been on the show, but we do want to give a big shout out to Nerd Cage Live for that live stream that we did a while back.
Admittedly, Sippy here thought he was too good for.
Yes. How dare you not want to join us on the show? But no, seriously, we do want to give a very big shout out to Jay and Joe for allowing us on the show. We hope we can continue entertaining you guys as we continue on. All right, boys.
Next time.
So for next time, we going back to one film, and this time we're going to be continuing our trend of legendary cryptids as we go to the deep trenches of the Lake of Loch Ness. Too bad the one that we're going to be looking at is also not of high quality.
The Scooby-Doo one?
No, that's for another occasion. But until then, I have been Ace Marrok.
And I have
SippyVA.
I have been
I'm
William
fine.
Silky Goodness Kearney.
And this has been Cryptic Collectors. We were trying to do an evil laugh. You guys fucked that up.